Hey guys, this is Chesney Hawks here. You are watching My Hammers 11 with the one and only Russ.
Hi everybody, Russ of My Hammers 11. Hope you're all safe whenever your channel. Please subscribing, hitting the bell icon so you may know any time I put new content on. Oh, I thought I was going to do it in one hit. I was going to do it in one breath. Anyway, it doesn't matter. If you're new channel, please consider subscribing. Yada, yada, yada. I'd like to thank Untuck, our channel sponsors. Check them out in the description below. Why don't you become a patron or a member, a channel member? Very new, very exciting. Anyway, today's guest, it's taken ages to get him on, but it's because he comes on every Friday anyway, and I forget that we haven't had him on the show yet. So we finally got one in the show. It's James. How you doing, Jim?
All good, mate. All good. Yeah, loving life at the minute. Being a West Ham fan, as we all are, it's surreal at the minute as fans because we don't see it like this ever. But I must admit, we've got to embrace it. That's the only thing I'm going to say. Yeah, we've got to enjoy it because West Ham don't always do this. It's every 35 years we might do this. So let's be honest. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. You know, I was thinking I'd be interested to talk to guys who are supporters. Obviously, I was a few years old, the 85, 86 season, but find supporters who, because obviously they must have felt exactly the same. You know, it was even more so because they were going for the title really until it could have been a different story. But I know what you mean. It is surreal. It is surreal when I was doing my end of season predictor league, and I was not looking at the bottom half, the bottom 4 or 5 teams. You know, it was the top team. So, as you said, we got to embrace it, innit? Don't worry about next year.
We do, mate. At the end of the day, this club has been through some hard times, and we've seen. It wasn't so long ago that this club nearly went out of business. If it wasn't, especially for the Icelandics and all that, and the chairman there going bankrupt. So. As a fan, I feel proud of this club at the minute. I feel proud to be a West Ham fan. There's been times where I've looked at the club and I thought, it's just not good. It's not a good look. Do you know what I mean? And recently, over the last sort of few years, they've sort of progressed slowly. It is a slow progression over there. Obviously, it all goes back to the 5 years when we left Upton Park, let's be honest. And that will, I think, until we progress and all the fans see that's when people might start to let the past go. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense, they'll start letting go of the ground and all that. If they see a team they look at that team and think, "Wow, that's our team there," from the team that we had in 2016, we would look at it a bit different. I think maybe we'd go, you know what, the past is the past. It's like when someone dies in your family or something. It's hard at the time, and then as time goes on, you grieve and you get over it, and you learn to adapt. And that's how we've got to be with the way things are at the minute.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. And actually, when you interview the older fans, they're so much more to the man, more positive of the move, knowing what it's going to bring to the next generation of of supporters. And I think it's that sort of middle ground where there's always, I don't know what a split is, but I was very pro the move just because from infrastructure perspective. But I know what you mean. It is like if we'd come out of the bowling, I think the trouble is because that bowling season was such last season was so amazing. But then you look at it in isolation, right? And you're thinking, arguably now, I think our performances now are much more exciting than that season. We had one or two players, or one player that season who was everything was centered around. Where this, we talk about West Ham fan, we want our players to fight for the badge and da. This team, if you put those teams against each other, this team will piss on that team. Absolutely piss on it.
Yeah, I agree. But the thing is now, it's all about the summer, in my opinion. I think this summer we have to, we're at a level now where we've got a sort of stability. What it is, there's no egos in the team now. There's no egos. There's no, anyone who thinks they're above their station. They're all in it together. They're all fighting for the same cause, basically. And me personally, it goes back to this summer now. And it will be about this summer. If we progress and we sign a few players and we do get into Europe, I do believe strongly that from yesterday's result with Leicester, this basically opened the door, and we've just got to walk through the door now. You know what I mean? So for me, if they get us into Europe with any form, whether it's Champions League or it's Europa League, it's a great achievement. It's how you progress onto that, because, as I've said on numerous places, like numerous platforms,
Yeah.
we won't be here for long if we don't. Like, if you stand still, the only place you go is backwards. You have to keep progressing each year. Like, you have to add another player, add two more players, you know what I mean, and go to that sort of level. That I think we all deserve, really, mate. Like, we've seen enough of these relegation battles last us a lifetime. Do you know what I mean?
It's true. Yeah, it's true. It's one of those things where I think, and it seems, obviously, you join the live streams and stuff and see on my channel, and there's a lot of like non-West Ham fans on there, and they're all really confident, really excited to see West Ham there, because you're right, we have a torrid time. As you said, we haven't won anything for 41 years. It's my lifetime. In my lifetime, anything proper. Oh, Intertoto Cup, but nothing proper. A couple of Betway Cups, but that's it. And so it's nice to see, but also it's nice for football. I think it was like when Leicester won the league, when it sort of shook everything up a little bit, and it meant for football that the big clubs had to go and spend to get back in. They were getting a bit complacent, and this season is a strange season. It has been strange, but we've taken full advantage of that strangeness, which is very unusual for us. It's really unusual. Usually, an opportunity to be presented. It used to always be we'd get into the top 7 and we'd always fail, But an opportunity is being presented to us to make a difference and get into Europe this year, and we're taking it, which is so unusual for us. I think that's why we're a little bit in cuckoo land at the moment, because I half expected Leicester to turn us out, just because it's just West Ham, Newcastle, Chelsea to turn us out, because it's just like always that damp squid at the end of the year.
I think it's the mentality, Russ.
Yeah,
I think it's the mentality. I think our mentality has always been West Ham will do well for one game against the big boys, and they'll go and lose 3 against like 3 relegated teams or something. Do you know what I mean? That's just the mentality of the club. It always has been, and I think what it is, that mentality has to change. If we're going to progress, we have to start believing that, we will get the Champions League, because I'm not seeing anything at present to make me think otherwise. Like each game they're going into it with confidence. They're believing in their ability, and the togetherness of the team is enough for me to prove that, this team is a solid foundation. Do you know what I mean? If you've got a solid foundation, you're going to progress quite well. I think any teams who's got people in there who can be a hindrance, it can derail. But I don't know. I believe in the next few years we might be starting to see a change at West Ham, as in the philosophy might start to change. But you've got to realise, I'm 34 years old. I've never seen us win anything. I've seen us get to playoff finals, lose 1, win 1, an FA Cup final where we've lost in big game, and I've never seen anything to sort of go, that's a good memory. The playoff final in 2005, I think it was, against Preston. That was a good moment. The Blackpool playoff final was a good moment, but then the relegations in 2003 and things like that wasn't. Do you know what I mean?
It's true. It's true, but I think also there's that sort of and I totally agree with what you mean about sort of a change in mentality, a foundation. That's what I've seen with Moyes coming in terms of, when Pellegrini came in, he just thought you could throw money at it and it would work. And it can work if you're Man City, because you've got basically 3 squads there. So if that play don't work, that one will work, and that one will work. It doesn't happen with West Ham. And I think, where we almost sort of jumped before we could leap a little, before we could walk a little bit. And now with Moyes, he's sort of like taking 2 steps back. Right, okay, it's like, I always say you can buy a beautiful apartment on Canary Wharf, but if the foundations of the building are shit, it's going to collapse. And I think that's
right.
And that's what happens, isn't it? And now we're starting to build it up. And you're right, we will. And then we will get to the, level by level, we're going to get higher and higher. And as you said, this summer's massive in terms of obviously the recruitment and what we bring in, and to see, for me now, if we finish Champions League, fantastic. If we finish in Europa League, brilliant. Whatever we get is going to be brilliant. But as you said, it's about next year now, and it's like where we finish next year, because we're not used to competing on different levels, and if we have to compete in Europe as well as everything else, it's going to be a bit interesting. It's going to be interesting.
It's all about ambition.
Yeah.
To me, like the key word is ambition here. Like if the owners are ambitious and we are in the Champions League, then let's be honest, with the running of fixtures that we've got, I look at the Chelsea and Everton game, me personally, as two hard games. Right, they're two good teams. They've got two very good managers. The other five are favourable fixtures, and as I've said it before, previous, if you could hand pick your own fixtures to have the last five games, a couple of them teams would be in it. Like your Burnley would be in it, your Brighton would be in it, and your West Brom definitely would be in it. So it's going to be interesting, and like we've got, as I say, right, and I've sort of said it quite a few times, like we've got to embrace it, mate, because I see things on social media where people sort of, I think it's because it's the West Ham way.
Yeah,
like, people think you know what, it's so good. This is too good to be true, and it could drop. But I've not seen that with this team this year. Every time they've done something, they've done it well, and the only thing that does it with all of us is our art problems, because they keep conceding goals in the 90th minutes and things like that. I don't know how we're going to cope, but. You know what I mean?
You're right. It's because it's been ingrained in us for so many years that there's going to be this speed bump and there's going to be this drop that we're almost sort of speculating it. So when it happens, we'll say, "Told you so." Told you so. You know. So for example, Declan Rice getting injured. Oh, that's it. We're done. Mark Noble's going to come in and play absolute dog. Last two games. Best I've seen him play for about 18 months, 2 years, I reckon, in terms of him playing the right. But he's playing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and everyone's like, "Oh well, good old Mark." And then it's like, "Oh, you know, Antonio's like, oh, that's it. Bowen came in, scored yesterday, didn't play too bad." Yeah, it's almost like they're just ready. We're trying to, I told you so. I told you we'd fuck up. It's but it is inherently ingrained in us. It'll take a while. It's the same as people. If we'd, as you said, if we'd left the bowling and we'd gone straight into the London Stadium and we're top of the league or we're in Europe, all that hoo ha would have been not quashed, but it wouldn't be so much, but it didn't.
I would say it would have been suppressed. Like it would have been, it would have been suppressed for a little while. But I think, like the team itself as a team this year is more together than I've ever seen it for a long, long time.
I agree.
I've never seen that. I've never seen this team so united, like as a sort of. I mean, and. As they are united, and I do believe, obviously, as I say, the summer is key, mate, and obviously the signings that we have to make in the summer, i.e. Jesse Lingard, is a must. Like if you're gonna like, because I don't know about you, Russ, but I've had enough of seeing this club fighting relegation every week in, week out, year in, year out, and it's about time we started to think about going up to the next level and started to sort of realise that we are a big club in London. Like we're not just little old West Ham who, like, one good game, two bad games. You know what I mean? We're in it's a lovely stadium where we're in, and we've got to attract top quality players to that stadium. And honestly, I do believe we can do that.
I think we can. I think the fact is, we're getting on a greater world stage now. In terms of people are paying attention, kinda, to us now, which does sort of prick people's ears up. If you're in Europe, whether it is in Europa, even the Europa Conference, that attracts a different caliber of, and you're right. It's ironic because the typical West Hamness of us, when like Big Sam came in and would get like 10th or 12th or Kirbishley or these. Everyone was like, "Oh, it's so boring," and it's like, and I'm the same as you. I could do with like half a dozen boring seasons now. Just get 10th in a cup run. That's all I'm bothered about, And so it's funny, isn't it, how we sort of like would change our perspective of things. So it's like everyone was like, "Oh Christ, just don't want to go be in a relegation battle." We had that with Big Sam, and everyone started moaning about Big Sam's football. It's like it was boring, but he did the job. Same as everyone was, "Oh, David Moyes, he's coming." Last 3 games we scored 9 goals. We've conceded.
I think if we was to sort of, for argument's sake, if we finished 10th this season, like just for argument's sake, we would have all been happy anyway because we stayed up after the poor start. But when you're sort of 7 games away from possibly the best finish you're ever likely to have, especially in the current climate and under this ownership that we're under, I personally think that's one of the best achievements, and that beats any cup. Like, because when you look at the likes, and you've got to look at the finances of it, like your Manchester United, your Man City's, Liverpool's, your Chelsea's. Chelsea went out in the summer and paid 240 million out for multiple amounts of talent, and we're getting a loan signing from Manchester United and Craig Dawson on a 2.2 deal from Watford. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you've got to look at it sort of, and you've got to stand back and go, you know what, we shouldn't be there, but we are there. But we've got to embrace it because the way we're playing. And sometimes hard work and togetherness and spirit amongst anything else, like team spirit, goes a long way. You know what I mean?
So true, so true. And you're right what you say. It's like, it's one of those things where I think, we've got a team that we're proud of now. And actually, it's horrible what's happened with everything in the pandemic and stuff. But from a purely selfish West Ham perspective, when that, in the summer it was horrible. In the summer it was horrible. There was a real, in that first game, Grady just been sold. Noble had done his tweet, and we hadn't bought anyone, and it would have been awful. It would have been awful, that ground. Toxic. It would have been toxic. But now the fans are going back. And hopefully, if everything works, Southampton 10,000 or whatever, and the next season, hopefully a full capacity. Everyone's going to be itching to go back to. They've got a team, as you said, a team that they're proud of, and that will just. I mean, the frustrating thing is, it benefited us not having fans definitely in the ground at the beginning of the season. Now, if we'd had fans, we wouldn't have lost that Arsenal. We wouldn't have lost. We drew. We wouldn't have drawn that Arsenal game. We'd have won that Arsenal game. We'd have probably gone on further with Leicester yesterday. We wouldn't have had these sort of collapse because you haven't got it's almost like you need that 12th man to go right. But in the adverse is Wolves would probably have equalised on last Monday. So, give it a bit.
But do you think though, Russ, really in one way, this might be the biggest favour that's ever happened, i.e. having no fans there? Because I think it was getting to a stage where it was getting so toxic in a way that something would happen and it would just spark up everyone. I don't get me wrong, I'd hold my hand up and I'd happily admit that sometimes I would spark up and say this is unacceptable as a fan and as a supporter of this club all my life. And and the way I look at it is now is it time apart is good, because now there's time apart. Like, you've got the fans sitting from afar, seeing how well the team's doing, and when they go back and the team does go 1-0 down, or the team does concede a goal, we ain't going to be going through on their back straight away. We're going to believe that this team's good enough to go, you know what, this team can get back in this. And we've got a squad and a manager who, let's be honest, a lot of fans were sceptical about at the start. And I think he's proved all of us wrong. I think what we are getting with Moyes at present is the David Moyes of Everton.
Yes.
The man who went out and signed Leighton Baines for 500,000, and Tim Cahill and Mikel Arteta and Stephen Pienaar amongst a few. Do you know what I mean? And he knows how to find players, and he does it very well. And I think now the fans can sort of sit back and go, you know what, we can let him do his job now. You know what I mean?
Totally
rather
agree.
than criticise.
Yeah, totally. And you're right. It is, I think everyone's perception of Moyes was tainted by basically Man United and Sunderland, but and obviously Rio Sociedad for a brief time. But as you said, for Preston, he was strong. He did a great job at Preston, and Everton was his masterpiece, so to speak. 10 years, gets them, from the bottom to the top almost. He's done it with us in less than a season. Really, it's just quite crazy. So, and what I like about him is he has that plan in his head. So he's going to talk. So, the way everything's sorted in terms of the way contracts have been set up, it's clearly this year's the striker, this summer's the striker, and then next year will be the goalkeeper, or so there's going to be like it's building parts, and it's good. It makes like there's a plan. I think to be fair, the last manager I reckon who's had a plan was probably Big Sam. You know what I mean? In terms of a plan, I think Bilic was like, and it worked because he had Payet. He didn't really, there wasn't like, it was always like, give it to Payet. If Payet's not there, there's no plan B. I mean, to be fair, Moyes has had plan A, B, C, D, and E, and probably F he's had this year with all so many injuries and stuff like that. Pellegrini was the same, in my opinion. Yeah. Just throw money in it, see what happens. So Moyes has come in with a plan.
Yeah, I just think Moyes is sort of, all the signings that he has signed have worked at the right time.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't really had a signing. Yeah, he hasn't had a signing really what's gone bad, so to speak. Yeah. Like, he signed your Jared Bowens, your Součeks, your Cafals, your Dawsons. He's obviously signed Ben Rama, who I'd like to see more of, but obviously he can't. He's on the bench at present. But all the signings, even the Lingard signing, is a masterstroke, really, considering he was sitting in Old Trafford doing nothing, and he had been out of action for about a year. And for him to go up there and get him on a loan fee for 1.5 million is pretty damn amazing, really.
It's mental. He's gone from Man United reserve to potential starter at the Euros. In terms of it just shows he's got he has his eye. I know people call him Diverin Dave and stuff like that, but when they work, they work. You know what I mean? It's like I'd rather have 2 or 3 Lingards a season than 10 Arbeloas, just get the numbers in. I would rather get quality rather than quantity. Yeah, that's right, quality. Yeah, so we'll see, man. We'll see.
Yeah.
But anyway, first question. 21 minutes in. Why West Ham? Why West Ham, Jim?
Family, mate. I got family from East London. I had a granddad who lived in Plaistow. My mum is from Forest Gate, my dad from Canning Town, and it was born into me, mate, really. I used to, I live in Dagenham, and I've lived in Dagenham majority of my life, but my family are all from the East End of London, and basically it was either West Ham or become homeless, basically, and I don't fancy becoming homeless, so I thought, you know what, I'll be a West Ham fan, so yeah, and I've just followed them from the age of 10, mate, really, if I speak the honest truth, like 9, 10 it was, and it was it's been a rocky road.
yeah, but I think it's and again it's one of those things with West Ham. The point West Ham is it's not a lifestyle choice. It's a calling, isn't it? Really, you wouldn't. There's been some people I've interviewed. I know you go on the American Hammers stuff quite a lot. A lot of them guys have sort of picked West Ham. There's no necessarily a bloodline or anything. They picked them, which always does surprise me. But for us, it was more a calling rather than rather than a lifestyle choice. We had to support West Ham, and you're right. It's not, part of me. Although it's nice having this, doing what we're doing at the moment. It's so on West Ham. I feel a bit dirty. Do you know? I feel a bit dirty looking fourth in the league. It doesn't seem right. It seems like we're not moaning about anything in terms of league position, or we're trying to hope that Burnley get a draw, so we stay up. It's something slightly wrong with it and off-putting. But as you said, and then once you're in, aren't you? Once you go to that first game, when was your first game? You said 96, wasn't it?
My game was my first ever game was Alvin Martin's testimonial. Nice. I went to Alvin Martin's testimonial. He had just finished. He had played Chelsea, and I think Chelsea won 4-3. And I went there, and obviously as like a first time, but my actual first real games were sort of towards the end of the 90s. Obviously, growing up, times were hard, especially in my household, and sometimes you couldn't afford to go to a game. And when I did, I sort of embraced it. As I got older, then you start to sort of enjoy it more. But one of the games that I actually did go to, which was pretty famous, is the 5-4 against Bradford, which was absolutely mental. It was 4-2 down at half time, I believe, and it was just a mental game. And obviously, I've seen West Ham on the telly, the '97 Cup game with Arsenal, the FA Cup game when Samassi Abu missed the penalty and all that. And as a kid growing up, there was a lot of banter in schools with me being a West Ham fan, being at the lower end, and if we was to nick a win against the top teams, it was like unbelievable sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
But we always did, didn't we? A few times a season, we'd always knock one, not knock one out. That's the wrong expression, but we'd always get one. We'd always knock a couple of those teams off their pedestal a little bit for that sort of week. You could go back into school smiling because you'd beaten Chelsea or Arsenal or Man United usually, wasn't it? But you're right. It's It's one of those things where, as you said, because you didn't go very often, when you did, you embraced it even more. And so, you really took everything in, knowing not necessarily when your next game was coming. So, yeah, that's really sweet, actually. But as you said, living in Dagenham, I'd imagine, most people were probably West Ham fans when there's probably a cross-section, wasn't there? So you didn't have too much stick.
Obviously, the training ground was Chadwell Heath, so Chadwell Heath's like 5 minutes away from your house. So it's always been like I've always lived close to the area, and obviously family roots and everything. And it doesn't, like, a club doesn't pick you. You sort of pick the club in a way, and the club sort of comes to you, sort of thing. And it was like, obviously, growing up, there's games that I've seen like at key times, like obviously. As I've got a little bit older, like the 2000 and the 99 season was a good season, like with the Intertoto Cup, things like that. And but it was all good when I was young, and it started to go downhill.
It's so true, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's so true, man. But yeah, no, it's very. I find it fascinating how everyone sort of, a lot of people, as you said, like yourselves, you sort of born into it. So but even like, as you said, I know you do with the Hammers Pole stuff. Obviously you speak to people all over the world, and some of their stories, I just find it incredible, absolutely incredible. Yeah. So no, it's I find it so bizarre. We're this little silly, funny little club in East London, and people from Bangalore want to support us.
Yeah, really? It is mad, I must admit. I mean, like what you were saying about the Hammers Pole stuff, I speak to a lot of Americans, and like, it's mad. Like, I'll be honest, Russ, when I started doing a lot of the stuff and I was speaking to Americans, I thought, I hope they're not supporting West Ham because they've watched the film, like Green Street or something.
Well, a few do, a few have. So that's just makes sense.
I was like, they don't get it, but I was a bit naive to it at the start, and then as I started talking to different people, I was starting to find out that they're as passionate as us. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And even and the commitment of what the Americans and Canadians and even people in Thailand, for instance, do to get up and watch a game like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're sitting there with like beers, and like it's like a main event sort of thing, like it would be for us if it's a boxing at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's it means a lot. Like, for me, I've always sort of, how can I put it? I've been in Dagenham. I could get on a train at Heathway. I'll be in Upton Park in like 15 minutes. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's there. It's sort of on the train. I'm there. Yeah. But for these people, they're thousands of miles away. And as I say, they're as committed as like you and me.
Oh yeah. Do you know what? And honestly, sometimes, I'll be perfectly honest, sometimes more than me. I'll be honest. I don't think I probably would, actually, saying it, but I don't think I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch West Ham play. Maybe this West Ham team, maybe, but from a relegation, just because it's just like, I just find it, but it's like it's their way of life, in terms of like the Fresno Irons, or as you said, the Thailand guys, or the Australian guys we have on all the time, or the Hong Kong blokes, and it's brilliant. I love it. Right, anyway, so let's go on to this 11. So the idea is we pick 11. You can pick whoever you want. The only criteria is you have to be alive to see them play. That's the only rule. You pick whoever you want, my man. So and I believe you're trying to be sneaky and play a 4-3-3 as well.
Yeah, I am. I'm just going to put it out there.
Ever the entertainer. Yeah. Right. Okay, so start off between the sticks then, Jim. Who's in goal?
Robert Green for me, mate. I think he was the best goalkeeper. Obviously, I could have put Ludo in. I could have put David James in, leading up to sort of Fab and other goalkeepers in recent times. But Rob Green for me was the one, mate. I thought he was decent. I thought he was England's number one for a few years, and that season, that Great Escape season where we managed to get out of it, one of the games that I remember him being absolutely phenomenal was the Arsenal away game, where he literally saved everything. Arsenal had about 25 shots on goal, and he was saving absolutely everything. Towards his time at West Ham, he started to fade a bit, but for the time he was with us, he done a lot of good things, and he's my number one, mate.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, as you said, you reeled off 3 or 4 decent goalkeepers. Then it's the one position we've never struggled with, I don't think, for a prolonged period of time. 6-month period last year we struggled, but apart from that, it's a goalkeeper. The goalkeeper is always a position which we don't tend to struggle too often. Not, obviously after Ludo left, we had a lot of loan signings, Lamar and various others. But as you said, Greeno, Jaskalainen, we had some good.
I could have put Shaka in there. Shaka was close to going in there. Obviously, I grew up seeing Shaka, and David James was another one who was close. But I thought, you know what, with Rob Green, he was the first signing where we thought, you know what, we've got a really good goalkeeper here who can stay with us for a long time, and he did, to a point. But he was top drawer. It was a shame really how it all sort of ended with him, but he sort of faded out obviously after the England thing in 2010 with the USA and the mistake. But he was good for us. When we signed him, we signed a good goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's true, we did. And as you said, that one mistake, and so as the goalkeepers, it's one mistake, isn't it? One mistake sort of, what's the word? It's sort of bullet points their career, so it's like that USA game, bullet pointed career. Scott Carson, that game he went through his legs or whatever, there's always one, and that's really unfortunate. The fact is, I don't know, Antonio misses an open goal, always forgotten about in a week's time, or Ogbonna does a stray back pass to Fabianski. Doesn't matter, but goalkeeper is so critical, and any mistake they make gets picked up. Right, okay, we'll put Greeno in goal. Okay, centre halves. You got three of them, then, or where he plays back three. Who you got?
Right,
who's your first?
I'm going for James Collins, the Ginger Pele.
Collins, the Ginger Pele himself.
Do you know what? With this team, I respect loyalty, and he's one of the fine ones for loyalty. He stayed with us through thick and thin. A really good signing from Cardiff, I must admit. He came with Danny Gabardon, who were two really good defenders, and Danny Gabardon was very close to going in there. I like Gabardon. I thought he was top drawer, but I think James, he's always been with us. He's always been with us through thick and thin. He left to go to Villa, and then he decided it was time to come home, and he come home, and he's his time with us only a few years ago, and he was top drawer defender, and I really liked the way he played. He wasn't the best defender in the world, but he was committed, and he loved the club, sort of thing.
He's that type of defender that we like as West Ham fans. Is that body on the line? You mentioned Alvin Martin, same type of player, body on the line. Obviously, Mr. Dawson, very similar again, and that's why we like the Czech boys as well, because they do the same thing. Literally they'll put their body on the line to get the ball, not going the goal. And GP's just lovely bloke. And as you said, he's one of those guys who's committed. I think him coming back made him more of a legend. I think if he stayed at West Ham, he may not have been here for the prolonged career, because he may have, improved. But obviously going to Villa, he was partner of Richard Dunn, and he came back and he had a lot of that sort of traits in the way he played, more rugged, more less, not cultured, but just like proper British defenders. I think that's why we loved him so much. Okay, GP's in. Who's next?
Mr. Rio Ferdinand. He was one of the players that I see sort of growing up at West Ham. Like when I was a young lad, seeing Rio come through the ranks, and it broke my heart, mate, when he had to go. Like £18 million to Leeds. But I could understand it. £18 million 22 years ago was a lot of money, and basically it sort of changed, like West Ham in a sense, like buying the stand and getting some players in, even though the players weren't that good that we brought in. But he was. It's just a shame that he had to go. Like, I think we could have kept him for a few more years, and look what he become. He become like a Champions League winner, Premier League winner. He's won every medal going. Do you know what I mean? And he was just top class, mate. He's got his allegiances to Manchester United, obviously playing for them, but I don't think he likes to admit it, but he still got a soft spot for West Ham, obviously knowing that was the team that sort of made him, basically.
Definitely. And the fact that obviously Anton then followed his footsteps as well. So there's always that connection, that family connection. But I totally agree with what you mean. Particularly as obviously Leeds he wasn't at Leeds for a long time, and they flipped him and trebled their money, basically, almost, or 2.5 times their money. So, interesting. Yeah, but I love Rio's in mine. I think it was great. Just complete, obviously, contrast from Ginger Pele in terms of being more cultured and whatnot. But yeah, he wouldn't. And I agree. He still has that sort of. I'm sure he still has a soft spot for West Ham. That's for sure. Right, GP Rio. Who's next?
The one and only, mate, the Terminator, Mr. Julian
Yeah.
Dix. This man was the one that I see for the first time ever. Like when I first watched West Ham, I see Julian Dix, and he was like, you know what, left back, master penalty taker, loved to tackle, committed, would bleed for the shirt, and yeah, mate, he was like idol growing up. Like everyone wanted to be him. Obviously, he come back with Slav and was assistant manager at the time at the club. And yeah, he was just top draw, mate. He was top draw. And he loved the club and all. Like he's another one who I've got a lot of players in this team who love the club, and he's another one who loved the club totally.
Yeah, you're totally right, man. He totally did. And as you said, it's as you said, left back or whatever. You know, not the particularly most exciting position in the world, but he became he is. He's like he's our Bobby Moore. Not Bobby Moore's too far, but he's our he's in that echelon of player, isn't he? That sort of legend of the club, a cult hero. Cult hero is probably better than legend to say.
He's in that sort of generation, Russ. If you look
Yeah.
at generations, like people go through the 90s, the first person they would think in the 90s is the Canio, then Dix. As in growing up in the 90s. So yeah.
No, he's top draw, top bloke, lovely man. Lovely bloke. Right, okay. We'll put Julian in. So that's the back three, goalkeeper. Let's move into the midfield then, Jim. Who we got in the midfield? Who's your first one?
Tricky Trev.
Ah,
Trevor Sinclair, mate. Mate, what a player. What a player. I loved him. I loved this man so much growing up. Pace, knew where the goal was. We signed him from QPR, and his debut was against Tottenham, I believe. Or he scored on his debut, like brace on his debut, but I can't remember who it was against.
Everton or Tottenham.
I think it was Everton or Tottenham, one of the two. And he become literally a West Ham icon. He sort of, when he's at West Ham, he's greeted with open arms because of what he's done for the club. He assisted one of the best goals ever to be seen at the Bowling, and it was just top class, mate. And do you know what? He was one of the first players sort of to go into the England team in the early 2000s, and we was also proud of him because he come to us. And when we signed him, we didn't know what we was going to respect. But when he turned up, he was phenomenal for us.
Yeah, he was. He totally was, man. And also, I think we sort of resurrected his career. He was sort of floundering. Obviously, we've had him on a few times. He's a top bloke, and he talks about that time when he was at QPR and he wanted to leave, and Jerry Francis had just left, and and he was like, he didn't even know if he was going to make it at West Ham. He was like, cause he turned up and it was all these big personalities. He's thinking, am I the right? Can I do it? And it's like, well, of course I can do it, idiot. But he had no confidence in himself. And then, as he's scoring a brace in his debut. Obviously, the last person since then was obviously Lingard to do that. So he's brilliant. He's brilliant. He loves the club. Absolutely loves the club. Still does. Which is great to see. Great to see, man. Right, Tricky Trev's in. Who's next?
400 appearances yesterday. It has to be Mark Noble, mate. And the reason why this man is in is because he has been loyal throughout. He stayed with us through thick and thin, and I respect loyalty. Right, I respect a man who's committed to the cause and doesn't chase the pound. No, he loves the club as much as we do, and he knows what it means to every fan. And do you know what? When I see the thing about him retiring, I cried, and I'm not even afraid to admit it. I cried, mate, because it makes me sad, because it's an end of an era, because we won't see that ever again in regards of Noble, if that makes sense. We won't see that sort of one player to play for one club only. Do you know what I mean? So he's been with us through thick and thin. He's seen FA Cup heartache, playoff heartache multiple times, and we've been promoted a few times with him. And he's obviously gone through a lot with in regards of the club. So, yeah, he has to be in there. He wasn't always the most skillful player, but he was committed. He was good on the ball, and he knew how to pass, and he knows how to take a penalty and all.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. There is he's one of those things as well, which I think with him, I think you're right. There's that sort of sense of loyalty. There's a sense of being on. It's unusual, isn't it? Having it nowadays, not back in the day, but in our days, it's unusual having a player stay with one club. Obviously, there's only 8 other people I think who have played 400 Premier League games for one club ever, which it just shows you. And it's the end of a not just an era, but an end of a dying breed. That sort of one man club, or you never know. Potentially one person, but I don't think that will happen now in the modern game, unfortunately. But no, it's just brilliant. Just brilliant. I think it's fantastic. Mate. He's class, and having a fan in your team, being a captain as well, is such an unusual thing. Again, back in the day, it wasn't unusual. And as I said, I think Noble has more. And obviously everyone talks about Bonds, Brooking, Moore, Peters, Hurst, those type of players. But Noble stuck with us for was it 17 seasons, and we've won fuck all. Do you know what I mean? It's been hard graft. It's been hard graft for him, and he's kept going. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, Bobby Moore won trophies at West Ham in England. Brooking won obviously West Ham. And certainly Billy Bonds, Frank Lampard Senior won FA Cups as well. But Mark Noble's won nothing, and he's still there.
His loyalty though is just phenomenal. Like, because what it is, you can go and play for a club. He could go and play for. If he was to go and play for, say, Fulham, for instance, it would mean nothing to him because he don't support him. He don't follow the club. He's just an employee at the club. But to West Ham, it means something to him. And when you've got a player who it means something to, he knows how every fan feels. And he was top drawer, mate, and it's going to be a sad day next season when it is the last game because I don't think we're going to ever see the likes of that again.
Yeah, it's true. It's horrible to think of it, but it's true. But we've got. But at least it's done the right way. We've got the last season to say goodbye properly. Hopefully, fans will be back in the stadiums, and it's there could have been a possibility where it would have finished this season, which would have been awful. So, in the grand scheme of things, he's done the right thing. And also he's given us a year to prepare ourselves. You know what I mean? A season, rather than sort of come out rather than come out next January to say, that's it, I'm not coming, and go, oh God, I've only got 4 months or 5 months left here. We've got a season for it to come to terms with it. And, he's absolute legend of the club. I love him. Right, okay, so we've got Sinks, we've got Noble. Who's next?
Declan Rice, mate. I think this lad, I know he's young, and maybe in a few years' time I'll be looking back at this and he might be at a big club somewhere else with big ambitions. But at the minute, he is one of the best players, one of the best defensive midfielders I've seen for a long time in football. I think what he's doing for this club in the future when Noble does hand over the baton to Rice as a captain. I think if he stays here for the whole of his career, he becomes a legend. And he becomes up there with people like Bobby Moore. I do believe that, honestly, and for our generation, so to speak. But I think he's just pure class, mate, box to box. I think his tackling's excellent in this day and age, where you are not really tackling that is sort of trying to get stamped out a bit, but he tackles in a way that he knows how to win the ball. And he's just top class, mate. And it's important that we keep this man and build around him because we've got a talent there, and he's getting better and better. And he's only 22. Yeah,
it's mental, isn't it? It's mental when you think how young he is and how many games he's played for us already. And you're right. There's players we revere who have only played a handful of games. And he's played over 120 games, something like that. It's absolutely mental. And he's already, just the impact he makes on the team is like, I mean, and now what I like is people are starting to get it. So like people outside of West Ham are starting to get it. So that Poland game, people started to get it because usually Twitter's always like, unless it's West Ham, everyone's like, who's this idiot? Type of thing.
Yeah.
People are getting it now, which is great.
Yeah.
Because it's great. But it's also not great because it means that more people are putting eyes on him. So, one hand giveth, the other taketh away. So
that's it. You know what I mean? So true.
But I love him. Right, Declan Rice is in. So we've got Sinks, we've got Noble, we've got Rice. Who's next?
Dimitri Payet, mate. I'm afraid. I know yeah, well, we did have him at one stage, but it's that final season at the Bowling goes down to a lot of things, but it also goes down to having a world-class player in our ranks, and he was a world-class player who was arguably an £100 million player at that time. His free kicks were phenomenal. His finishing was excellent. What he brung to the team was just flair and imagination and just absolute class act. And it's a shame how it ended the way it did, because a lot of people look at him negatively now. But we needed like a sort of vocal person, and like as in expressing himself on the pitch in the final game at the Bowling, and he was the man who arrived and done that for us. And I will always be grateful for that last season at the Bowling, because we can look back on that final game against Manchester United. We can look back on all the games through that final game, and it's he was 90% involved in most of the stuff that we done good. So for me, he was top class, and it's just a shame how it ended, really. But what he did bring was a world-class player coming to our club.
Yeah, and it obviously there's like parallels at the moment to Jailings, really, in terms of the impact. When a player is that good, they look head and heels above their head and shoulders. Yeah, head and shoulders, not head and heels. How'd that work? How would head and heels work? Head and shoulders above the rest of the because he came in Payet, and he was just like, from day one, bang, go. I'm that good. I can rabona these people. I can do this. I can do these free kicks. Same as Jailings, I think. Now he came in, bang, straight away, 2 goals straight away. And he was just brilliant. He was so, and I think people, I think the animosity towards Payet has died somewhat, because people now look, because after it's like about 5 years, people look back romantically at that time at the Bowling, and knowing he gave us that last year. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had that season. We wouldn't have had it. It was him. And it was passes to Payet. But. As you said, having a situation where you get a Ballon d'Or nominee in your team, never going to happen again, mate. Never going to happen again.
That don't happen to us.
No, that's what I mean. So again, embrace it while it lasted.
Yeah.
But, right. Okay. There's your four. Okay. The 3 up front. Who's your first one?
I'm going to go with Dean Ashton for my first one. I know I'm going to leave till last, but Dean Ashton for me was. Do you know what, we had a top class player on our hands, and it was just, and yet again, for what he brought to the team before he got injured and he had to cut his career short, he would have been up there with the likes of Harry Kane of now, because he was good in the air, good on the ground, skillful, knew where the goal was, and he was like a natural finisher. Like, to say, you know what, he's going to score these goals. And what we would give for a Dean Ashton in our squad today, because I think he
perfect foil, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he was phenomenal, mate. He was really good. We signed him from Norwich, and previously he come from Crewe, and he was just top class, mate. He was a top class player, top class bloke, and all, like, really nice bloke. And it's just sad. It was just a sad moment that he gets injured and it ruins his career on international duty, when he's done so well to get to the international call-up. He goes to the internationals, like training, gets injured, and it ruins his career. So yeah, Dean Ashton. Really
It's one
good
of those
player.
things as well. It's like, again, this is similar to Declan Rice. You want him to play well, perform well at international level for himself, but then you're like, oh, but don't perform too well because I don't want you to go. And that's the same with Dean Ashton. We wanted him, it was great that he was getting into England squad, but obviously he got injured and then absolutely fucked up his career. And I think with Dino as well, you're totally right. He's the most. I mean, to me, I always say he is the striker Harry Kane wishes he was, because I think he had everything. Kane's got a great shot on him. He's got a great leap. But he'll never beat a man with skill. He'll never beat a 5-yard pace. Dino wasn't blistering, but he had that 5 yards, and he could get past people. He'd score all different types of goals. I wouldn't see Harry Kane doing a bicycle kick.
Yeah.
That's what I wouldn't see.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
But Dino did. And it was brilliant. And I totally agree with what you say. Totally agree, man. He was an absolute. He would have. What he would have been if he hadn't got injured in terms of England, and maybe not West Ham. He might not have been at West Ham for much longer. He may have gone to Man United to partner Rooney, but still.
He was top draw.
Dino's him. Who's next?
This man was only with us a short period of time, but it's Carlos Tevez for me, mate. What he done in that season to save us in the Great Escape season was miracles. Like what Jay Lings is doing for us now is what Carlos Tevez done for us all them years ago, back in 2007, I believe. And the goals he scored, the free kicks he scored, and I know he was only with us a short period of time, but yet again, another player who went on to do a lot of things with different big clubs. And it was just a shame that we couldn't have had him again, like for a longer period of time. It was a bit of an hard one, this one, because I looked at John Hartson, and I remember John Hartson playing for us for many years, and Paul Kitson even growing up, the Kitson Hartson team in '97 when they was both signed by Harry Redknapp, and they saved us then. But when I look at Tevez, the skill of the man, the finishing, the penalties, the free kicks, he was just a top class player, mate. And it's just a shame we didn't have him longer.
It was a real shame. It's one of those things, again, he came in and made such an impact straight away. Not really. He made an impact because it sort of, in terms of the transfer, not necessarily on the pitch, but it just shook everything up. It was the first time that someone, a relatively small fish, really, in West Ham, had a really big transfer, and it was like, what's gone on here? This is really weird.
Yeah.
And it was like, and he came on and he tried, and it was like, it's a bit like your boy Ben Rama, in terms of how, he needs that first goal. And Tevez for ages would try it, would keep trying, and he'd hit the post, and the keeper would put off a worldie, and then obviously that Tottenham game where he scored that free kick and he just went absolutely nutty. I mean, we've interviewed like Anton and various others who played with him, and they said that was the game that he came off the pitch knowing what it was like to be what the West Ham meant to people. He understood it then because that one game. So, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, player. And he did try, he really tried to integrate himself, in West Hamness. Yeah, he really did try. He always had he'd always be one of the boys and stuff like that, and would have an interpreter everywhere he went, nights out, whatever. He'd have an interpreter on the dance floor so he could get involved with all the banter and stuff. But top boy. So right, so we got Carlos, we've got Dino, and then the last one, Jonathan Calleri, clearly.
No, mate. Sadly not.
No? Okay,
it's the one. It's the one and only Mr. Paolo Di Canio.
Yeah.
Now, this man was just phenomenal, mate. Literally, absolutely unbelievable. For me personally, when he come to West Ham after the Sheffield Wednesday incident and all that, and he come to us, he was coming to a club where if this man performs every can, he becomes an hero, basically. And he comes to the club, he embraced the club for what it is. And his passionate Italian passion is what West Ham is. But obviously we are passionate West Ham fans. And he embraced the club, and the club loved him back, and the fans loved him back. He scored one of the best goals we ever see at the Bowling against Wimbledon, and Trevor Sinclair assisted the goal, and it was one of the best goals you're ever likely to see in world football, like a scissor kick from that far out, bending it into the top corner. I think the energy he brought to the club, and you know what? For all the good stuff he'd done, he was a sportsman and all. Like he at Everton away on my birthday, funny enough, in 2000, I believe, 2001. He catches the ball when the player's on the floor, like in Paul Gerrard, sorry, and basically he's got a heart and all. Like he's got passion and he wants to win, but he's also got an heart. And the man, what he done for the club, and it was when we got relegated in 2003. That was heartbreaking for me personally, because I knew that we was going to lose him and was going to lose everyone. And he knew after the Chelsea game that was his last home game at West Ham, and he would always be a legend at West Ham forever for what he brought to the team, and he's up there with Bobby, and he's just a top class man. Love it.
And I think with Paolo as well. I think we said about Trevor Sinclair. We resurrected Paolo's career. He was on the scrap heap really, having pushed over the ref, and by playing for West Ham, he I've said it before on the channel. He was put into a bracket at the end of the Zolas, the Bergkamps, Henrys, that sort of top draw, foreign imports in terms of the Premier League. He wouldn't have done that if he stayed at Sheffield Wednesday. No disrespect to Wednesday, I love him, but he wouldn't have done that. And so I think he knows that as well. He knows he became this sort of cult hero, and sometimes it happens with Tevez, happened with Collins and Di Canio. Sometimes a player and a club just work, and it just worked. With Paolo and Tevez, Paolo and West Ham, and so he was an absolute magician, but a different type. Payet was arguably more skillful, I'd say, but Di Canio was like and we were saying about the Bradford City games, it was the entertaining value of it as well, which for me is just as important.
Yeah, and he always had an argument when it comes to taking the ball off someone and put it on the penalty spot. If he has to be his way or no way. So he was just top draw though, Russ. It's a shame really, because when I speak to younger fans, and I know a few younger fans through Hammers Polls and things, they never see Paolo Di Canio.
No,
but we did, and what he brings back then was like an elegance of when he had the ball, we all stood up and took note, and that is what we've always wanted. He was a maverick, and he was just a top class player, and he could have left us for Manchester United. There was a time when Manchester United were coming calling, and he decided to stay with us. And he's a gentleman, he's a top class man, and he's West Ham in a nutshell: passion, commitment, heart, and desire.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think when you said like a maverick, and I think unfortunately the trouble is the word maverick now is it's almost like a dirty word now. Because you don't even get free roles. It's maverick. Everyone has their own job. And I think he may not have had the impact that he would have had in today's team that he would have had in that team, because that team was full of those sort of maverick, entertaining character. Whenever every team had one, every team had a Letizia or Ginola, or they all had these maverick enigma players who would turn it on for some games and be absolutely mesmeric. But not nowadays. It's all about where you fit in the systems and stuff like that. I'll get off my soapbox anyway. There's the team, Jim. Whoa, look at that team. Oh, Champions League, nice, having a laugh, my friend.
Yeah, I like that team, must admit.
It's quite good, and in their pomp as well. Yeah, it's not too bad. That is pretty sweet. James, man, thank you so much, my friend. Anyone watching, obviously, go to Hammers Polls. James has loads of stuff over there. We've had it's always good to. You got anything? Oh, you got the bowling podcast thing coming up. Doing that in the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got a few shows going on there, mate. I've got a view from the sideline, stateside, for Americans to come on and talk to me about like after the game reactions and things. We've got a few from the sidelines, the UK version, where I get a load of people on, interact with them on like a live interaction show. And I'm starting to do a Back to the Bowling series, like podcast, where I can talk to fans about their pre-game and after-game things when it come to the bowling, basically. Going to the bowling, when was your first game? What was your pre-match like routine? Like, where was you coming from even? Because I spoke to people and some people have come from as far as Australia, do you know what I mean? To come down all the way down to come and watch our club. So yeah, check it out. I'm trying to get some new content out there. I do a match day mornings with Jazz from West Ham Fan TV. Really top man, and yeah, really lovely bloke and all, and proper West Ham fan, home and away. So yeah, top class, man.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right then, mates. And obviously, thank you to everyone for watching as well. Wherever you watch it, whatever platform you watch it, make sure to give it a like, give it a share, give it a subscribe, become a member or a patron, whatever. And until next time, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Get those jabs when you get your appointments. Come on, you irons, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Much love. Bye-bye.